Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as he always does, you know him, he's the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Let me talk to you.
And boy, do we have a lot to talk about in the land of movies, TV, comics, and more.
And we are braving the elements for you fine folks.
Yes, currently where we are located in upstate New York, it is under tornado watch.
Like the entire state north of the city.
Mm-hmm. But we are risking the elements. We are braving it all for you to give you all the pop culture talk that you need to have in your system. And we definitely want to keep the conversations rolling after the show. So, Pad, where does everybody go?
ODPHpodcast.com.
Right on. So, defying the elements, we have the website, which has TeePublic Store links, Patreon links. Shout out to all our amazing patrons, $1 tier, $2 a month. Social media links. Gotta say, Threads is blowing up right now.
Yeah.
If you're not on Threads, you need to get on Threads. You need to make sure to follow the ODPH. It's
By the
right
way, happy birthday, Threads. Coming up on a year.
Yeah, it's wild to think about, and we're one of the original founders or
OGs.
members, I guess you could say. Because, like I said, I would say followers, but I don't know how it's termed.
Yeah.
Either way, we're one of the originals there, but we definitely talk to everybody there along with all the other social media accounts because we have blogs to go over where we have reviews dropping left and right. In fact, there's a brand new TV project that will be coming out in the next couple weeks. I can't talk about it right now, but trust me, it'll be on ODPHpodcast.com.
Spoiler alert, Ken finally wrote his Ben Reilly fan project.
Well, there is rumor about that,
Oh.
but that'll come out next year.
Oh, okay.
We have some more story about that one as well. But that's why you can find out things like that from the directory, which has great friends of the show, such as 3FM Podcast, Dragon Master Games, Nerd Initiative. Also, voter registration. Can't emphasize that enough in the United States this year. And that's all I'm going to say about it. Make sure you get registered. Make sure you go out and do the thing. Also, check out the directory, because, Pad, how many providers are we on?
80,557.
I don't question him, folks. That is why he is a statistician to the stars, because he knows things. So make sure to go over the directory, follow and listen to the show on your favorite podcast player. Drop that review for us. It definitely helps the algorithm. Lets us know what you'd like to hear about the show, what you do, what you don't. You know, we're open to criticism. That's what we do here at the ODPH. We have those friendly conversations. And we also have great music to go along with it. So that's why we have a whole music section where you can find out about such musicians as Brian Wolf and the Howlers, Second Suitor, Tom Jolou, Shout Out the Robots, Floodlands. Basically, if it's anything and everything that is the ODPH, you can find it at ODPHpodcast.com. And on social media, remember to use the hashtag ODPHpod. We have a lot to go over in the land of streaming. So, Pad, let's roll the dice. Where do you want to start off first?
Why don't we start off with the one that's probably the second most crazy of the two, but equally interesting, and that would be The Boys.
Yes, the 6th episode of Season 4, the penultimate season, had a lot of people talking.
Yeah, it did.
And this is nothing new if you're a fan of the show or the comic book from Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson.
Uh-huh.
They have done the shock, awe, and horror in some circumstances since day one. And obviously the very unique perspective of when superheroes have no responsibility and they're a danger to everybody around them has really elevated to a lot of different directions, to put it mildly. And where we've gone this season, it's all coming down to the big showdown that is eventually going to happen between Karl Urban's Butcher and Anthony Starr's Homelander. And where we went with this episode and the surrounding parties involved, it went places.
Yeah, it did.
And I will say this, because if we're going to get to the spoiler-free portion of the show, of the segment, I should say, because if you're new to the ODPH, that's what we do. We give you a spoiler-free statement about what we're going to be talking about. Then we give you a countdown. After said countdown, it's full-on spoiler talk. We hold nothing back. You have the option to jump out, pause the episode, catch up, watch the show, and jump back in, or brave it and hear what we have to really say about this episode. Because the only way I can really describe what we're going to be talking about is this possibly might have been the Walking Dead episode where Negan kills Glenn.
Maybe.
To a certain degree.
Time will tell. Too early to say.
Because there has been a lot of shock and awe with this show.
Uh-huh.
From Herogasm to obviously the first 5 minutes of season 1, episode 1.
I'm going to be honest. I think this episode shocked me more than Herogasm. Mm-hmm. And we'll get into it once we spoilers.
Yeah, so there was a lot happening with this episode. So that's why, Pat, I'm just going to say we have to get right into Amazon Studios and Prime Video's The Boys episode 6 entitled Dirty Business. Give me your spoiler-free statement.
So I was not able to watch this episode the night it dropped because it dropped on the 4th of July here in the States. Obviously, a lot of parties going on, a lot of festivities. I did not. I left my apartment at 6:30 a.m. in the morning Eastern. Did not return home until 11 o'clock that same day, p.m. So I was obviously exhausted beyond all personal reason. Had to get up the next day for my usual stuff during the day. And just because, in the words of Ian Malcolm, life finds a way, was not able to watch this episode until today as we record, which is Wednesday. So I had seen a couple of reactions online of just general feelings, general, statements, nothing like super in-depth spoiler, like Snape kills Dumbledore levels of spoiler, nothing to that level, but it was just general, people are shocked, people are talking about this, people are this, people are that, with certain storylines. So I went into it with a kind of trepidation of okay, I know something's going to happen that's got people talking. I don't know what I had my bar set to, but boy, was my bar set too low, because it went over the bar and it was shocking. It was, in terms of the story and advancing the plot of this show in general, from where we started in season 1, episode 1 to where we're going to, inevitably end. I dug that. But there were certain parts of this that just made my skin crawl.
Well, it's the one thing that is the gift and the curse of this show.
Yeah.
They push boundaries.
Yeah, they do.
Eric Kripke and the company involved here really give a very strong depiction of what you see in the comics. Mm-hmm. And the comics do push the envelope very, very far.
Yeah.
So knowing the characters that were involved with this, because one was introduced last episode, you knew if you read the comic that something bad was going to be happening.
Yeah.
And it lived up to that expectation because the pop culture audience was not ready for what they were watching. However, it was balanced off by a plot point revelation that we had speculated on for quite some time now.
Yep.
And got a definitive answer about what is really going on with Butcher.
Uh-huh.
So throw it all together. It was an episode that, if you're used to the series, it didn't really shake you too much. But for a lot of the pop culture audience, they were rattled.
Yeah.
And I've even read online that some people have quit the show because of this.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Which, if that's how you feel about the show, that's completely up to you. And I'm not judging you one bit.
No.
All I can say for me personally is I've read the comics, and trust me, this was something that I would say they took some liberties with, but it fits the one character involved with, because in the comic that character is not exactly a nice person either. So that being said, Pad, let's talk some spoilers. So in 3, 2, 1, what'd you think about Dirty Business?
Thought it was a good episode. Really dug it. It certainly made my skin crawl, but it didn't necessarily turn me off to it. It just kind of made me sit there and go, whoa. I was expecting them to push some boundaries and expecting them to go some places, but it went further than I thought, and it shocked me a little bit, but it didn't disgust me in any way, but I thought overall episode was good. A lot of good stuff in this episode. There wasn't really any point of it where I'm like, oh my God, why are we here? Why are we doing this? What's the point? It really felt like a phenomenal episode, and probably the best one thus far this season for me.
This one gave some strong performances from Carl Urban.
Yeah.
And obviously Anthony Starr does amazing work.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan as well.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who has been playing the proverbial devil on Butcher's shoulder.
Didn't put that together until this episode for obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm. Really stole the moment from the end of the show.
And we realized Jeffrey Dean Morgan crushes everything he's in.
Yes.
He stepped it up a notch in this.
Well, he really rose to the occasion with the material that's given, because all in all, it's all about Butcher and what he's seeing, knowing that he has a few months left to live. And he has one mission on his mind, and that's to kill Homelander and anybody connected with him pretty much before he says goodbye. And whoever's involved is more or less considered collateral damage at this point.
Yep.
And just the sheer ruthlessness that he's willing to go came out, and there was a lot of comparisons to Fight Club with what we saw with Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character of Joe. But it really was a good balance to the very, very, very twisted version of Tech Knight that we saw get introduced here on the show. Because if you're not familiar with Tech Knight, that is the version of Batman in the Supes universe of Vought. And it really went some places because we do start off with a political gala, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can call it that.
I mean, I expect something like this happens, every year, where you get somebody running for office or running for re-election. Obviously, a little bit of a costly thing to do, no matter what universe you're in, real world or fictional world. So you need some money behind it. You need some donors and some help. So obviously you make some connections and you get a gala or a soiree together, if you will. And you have these folks get together, you rub elbows, you exchange LinkedIn accounts, and then you get them to donate money to you.
And we do see that Tech Knight is working the room, played by Derek Wilson.
Played well.
Played very, very well. And we do see how he is trying to get on the good side of one Homelander who is there with his political counsel, if you will. And that is such a weird statement to make. But that's literally where we're living in this world.
Yep.
Because obviously he has become very connected with Victoria Newman, played by Claudia Dumont. And the soup that knows everything, and that's Sage, played by Susan Hayward. So they are working the room because they have their own agenda going on, but they need to sway the government to get involved.
Yep.
And obviously with Newman trying to advance in the political realm, there is some opposition because what she's really hiding is very disturbing if you break it down. And what they're planning on doing with everybody under Homelander's rule, it's, dictatorship.
That's what
levels.
it is.
I mean, to put it mildly, I'm trying to find like a better way to put it, but it is.
It's 1930s, 1940s Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
It is very scary, the premise they're trying to hide with their actions they're doing. But working with Tech Knight,
who has prisons.
Yep, who came out and has prisons all over, much in the same idea of one Bruce Wayne, a.k.a. Batman. We don't know exactly what kind of prisons Bruce Wayne has, but let's face it.
They're not the fun kind.
We've had numerous times in the comics where Bruce has done some shady things to the superhero community, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
So this isn't really out of the realm of thought, but we do see that obviously with this party going on, the boys need to go in and infiltrate and try stopping things best they can.
Because as is often the case with this universe, the best laid plans go to waste. And the plan works out, I wouldn't say fairly well, but decently well for as much as it goes. And then it takes a left turn at Albuquerque and goes south.
Goes south very, very fast.
So
their game plan is to have Huey sneak into the party disguised as Web Weaver. So the boys' version of Spider-Man, who's played by Dan Mussel, who
I didn't need to know how he used his power. I'm not surprised they told us, but I'm just saying, Eric Kripke, if you're listening, I didn't need to know that.
Yeah.
TMI.
It was a lot. It was a lot to deal with.
I'm not surprised, given the universe, that's how that works.
Oh, you can't be.
But again, TMI.
It was TMI, but it worked because Mother's Milk had to go in there and basically drug him.
Yeah.
Who it looked like Web Weaver has unfortunately, an addiction problem in his own right.
Oh, yeah. Hard.
So he is taken off the board. They get his costume and give it to Huey. Huey is going in undercover because Tech Knight is trying to recruit him to be his new ward.
Because they find out about this party and they somehow find out that Web Weaver has been invited to said party. So like, oh, isn't this convenient?
So Huey goes in and Tech Knight sneaks him away from the group.
Because Tech Knight has been, as his butler says, anticipating him.
So he basically leads him down into his bat cave, which we find out is an S&M dungeon.
Yeah, there's some stuff going on.
Yeah, and you can use your imagination for that, folks. It really held nothing back.
No.
So Huey is unfortunately now involved with this, and he is desperately waiting for the rest of the 7 to bail him out. In fact, it even gets to one point where he has a tickling issue going on with Tech Knight's partner in crime in this. And it's played by Colby Minifie, and that's Ashley, who we know is the former head of Vought.
Yeah, she's
PR
she's the PR CEO. She's not actually in charge of the company at this point, but for public relations' sake, she is.
Yeah.
And towards the beginning of the party, Sage sees Ashley there and goes, "What the fuck are you doing here?" And I just love the look on her face, and I love the way she replied to Sage and goes, "Oh, didn't you know I got invited personally by Tech Knight? We go way back."
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, she got way too much joy out of that one.
So you knew something was up, and Tech Knight obviously has a lot of disturbing habits.
Yeah, he does,
to say the least. So this kind of does play a little bit off of what you see in the comics. I'll just say, if you really want to know about Tech Knight in the books, you should go read them.
Reader discretion is advised.
Oh, absolutely. So while this is going on, Homelander is like working the room, so to speak.
Yeah.
Even, like I say, he has the uncomfortable conversation with Tech Knight before he disappears, too, which plays into the old Superman-Batman frenemy vibe that occasionally happens.
Yeah.
And Homelander is just basically getting very impatient for what's going on because he wants action to happen. Firecracker, though, is the odd one out of the 7 that's in attendance.
Yep.
And is not handling that she is getting shunned by Homelander's regime, so to speak.
Yep.
So Valerie Curry, who's been playing Firecracker, does a great job here and really sells the point of how she is basically the discarded member of the 7.
Like, there's one point where I think it was Sage and Homelander, along with somebody else, one of the politicians or wealthy folks in the room, whoever it was, wanted to talk, and Firecracker was just hanging out there, like, might not have had anything to contribute, but hey, like, I'm part of the 7. I want to just hang out and then converse. And she basically got shooed away by Homelander. Like, the adults are talking, go to the kids' table.
Yeah. And it just goes to what Homelander does with everybody. He thinks he's above everybody else. He thinks that he is the end-all, be-all, supreme being of Earth.
Yeah.
Love him or hate him. But he is, as he'll tell you anytime, he does whatever the fuck he wants.
Pretty much.
So we see their story kind of start playing out. The boys make their rush in to save Huey because obviously something has gone wrong.
They've lost communication. They can't get to him. They're like, oh, shit, we got to pull him out.
Huey does, though, give enough information to Kimiko and Annie and Mother's Milk that he's going into a library. There's a hidden book, thus leading down to the tech cave. So they wind up sneaking into the party. There is a confrontation between Mother's Milk and Sage. And this results in Sage getting shot in the head by Mother's Milk. And then he suffers a panic attack because she has been really provoking him.
Yeah, she's pushing the right buttons.
Talking about his family and really where Mother's Milk has been trying to calm down. And that's been an underlying story this entire season.
Subtly, yeah.
It really kicked in a high gear that he is now having what is presumed at the time a heart attack.
That's what he thought initially, yeah.
And then later it turned out it was a panic attack.
Yeah.
So they have to get A-Train to get him to the...
This is all the while. So before he has the panic attack, he's got Kimiko running around the office trying to find the tech cave. And all the meanwhile, Sage is like talking to him. It's the standoff, and he's like, listen, stop moving. Do you think he knew what was going to happen when he shot her, or he was just hoping he'd kill her?
He was hoping he'd killed her.
Okay.
I fully think he was hoping he killed her. Like, at this stage, he really was, not to put a pun in, but he was panicking.
Right.
Because they knew they got exposed. Homelander's there.
Yeah. And
if something happened, they would be covered up.
Well, and that's the other thing, too. There was a little bit of I feel, discrepancy with this whole episode, and specifically with Home Hours. You think back to earlier in the episode where A-Train was on the phone with Mother's Milk, and he's freaking out because he's telling him, oh, the one guy, the news anchor, got killed because, they thought he was the leak and all the soups beat him up and blah, 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 blah. Where did he run to convey that message? Because he was near Homelander and he didn't want Homelander to hear. He ran to Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So then while this whole thing is going on in the mansion where they're presumably one floor above them, I realize mansions can be very large and it might be multiple, but just for the sake of argument, and we don't know, I'm going to say they were just one floor above Homelander. How the fuck did he not hear any of this?
He's too focused on what's going on.
Okay.
See, the one thing is where you have a great point. I want to say first and foremost.
Okay.
But Homelander is so bought into what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's not as focused on everything else as he should be.
Okay.
And I think that that's where we've seen, like, for example, when A-Train went into his room way back when.
Right.
And was messing around. Like, you think that would trigger something in Homelander to hear and come flying in.
Right.
He's too full of his own crap that he's not paying attention. And in this moment, he's really sitting there trying to force his agenda onto the senators.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's paying attention to anything.
Mm-hmm.
So this allows Annie and Kimiko to get down to save Huey.
Yep.
And they do, which they subdue Tech Knight,
Yeah.
who's all but willing to be subdued.
Yeah, because he's that type of person.
Yeah, he's into that lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And they wind up trying to torture him for information. It's not working.
Because he's a masochist.
Mm-hmm. And his butler tips him off.
Well, no, it's not the butler. It's the former sidekick.
Yes.
It's the former sidekick he had tied up on a wall, and that's the only way I'm going to describe it. If you've seen the episode, you know. The sidekick who, I don't know what power he's got, but clearly it's semi-super strength, rips the chain he's got hooked to himself and the wall off the wall, and they think he's going to attack him. And Tech Knight even says or gives him instructions to go find something or find someone. I don't remember what it was. But instead of doing that, he runs over to the computer because he's gagged at the mouth. And again, only way I'm going to describe that. He runs over to a computer, opens the computer, and goes to a website or a program. And come to find out, it's Tech Knight's bank account or bank accounts. Knowing billionaires the way they're portrayed in these kind of things, they've got multiple accounts. But of course, as is modern technology, it is locked with a retinal scan. And he points to the thing, he points to him, to Tech Knight, and all of a sudden the three of them put two and two together and go, oh, that's how we do this. So he goes, wait. So Tech Knight starts freaking out. Wait, what are you doing? What are you doing? They force his eyelid open. The retinal scan is complete. And all of a sudden, they've got access to his billions upon billions of dollars. Mm-hmm. And they decide, oh, what's the best way to get information out of him? Why don't we start transferring his money to a bunch of groups and charities that he doesn't agree with. Mm-hmm. And that's what they do.
And they start going all in until he finally unveils what Homelander and Sage have been working on. And Pad, what is that?
They're planning on using his prisons as internment camps, for the dissidents who don't agree with their way of thinking.
Yeah. So when he gives us this information, his butler kills him.
Uh-huh.
And
because
obviously,
the butler's like, this ain't the same kid I raised.
Yeah, he just basically says, I don't know who you are,
yep.
and I'm not going to be held responsible for your evil, to paraphrase a little bit.
And he tells the escaping heroes, if you can use that term, don't worry, we'll make this look like an accident.
Yeah.
Which for him, probably not that far of a stretch.
It probably isn't, but then again, this is why Alfred was the scariest member of the Bat family.
Especially in Injustice.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. One day he'll be back in the comics. One day. Mark it. But so their story ends there with Huey, who's very, very traumatized with what's going on, and obviously
he went through a lot we didn't see on screen. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, yeah. And then to deal with the loss of his father, he finally has a breakdown. Mm-hmm. And it's, like I say, it's a very strong scene with him and Annie. Mm-hmm. And, I say this is probably the most human element of the show that we've seen this episode.
Yeah, because he never really gets time to process or even grieve his father. I mean, presumably they go to the funeral because there's a scene early in the episode where it's the entire crew dressed in black, formal attire, like they're going to a funeral, and they're walking down the street, and one of, Homelander's fans sees Starlight walking down, Annie walking down the street, and starts, swearing at her, oh, fuck Starlight, oh, go Homelander, all this other stuff. And Annie, Starlight, is like, whatever, let's just let him be. It's whatever. Like, she doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
Huey's ready to take his head off, like, by any means necessary. And he's like, hey, fuck you. What? He starts swearing profanities at the guy. And he's ready to run at him. And Annie's like, listen, stop. He's not worth it. Like, just let him go. Like, just let him say his piece and move on. And the guy does. He says his piece, and he just, whatever, and he walks away. And then you get to the end of their story in this episode, and he, like you said, he just breaks down like, I'm going through a lot of shit, and I need help.
Yeah. So obviously he's had an emotional time here. Mother's Milk has had an emotional time.
Yep.
Because he needs to calm down and basically is told you need to walk away from the boys.
Well, no, whatever you're doing that's causing you this much stress, you need to walk away and take some time off.
Yeah.
Which, given what's going on, probably not an option.
Well, like I say, it's going to be a tough thing to do because obviously the boys' ranks are depleted. Frenchie is still in jail because he turned himself in. Kimiko goes to visit him
twice, and he doesn't see her.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to see her.
So
the other thing, too, is at one point I know in this episode, Annie says we need Butcher.
Yeah.
But they have no idea where he is. Someone, I think it might even be Mother's Milk, says he's gone AWOL.
Mm-hmm.
Or he's MIA, one of the two.
But we do find out that Butcher went back to the scene of the crime, so to speak, from last week.
Yeah.
And he has taken Samir by hostage because he wants to replicate the killer virus of Soups that he was working on.
Uh-huh.
And obviously, this is no good for anybody.
No.
So there is this moment where Butcher is laying out his plan to Joe.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the back and forth that we were alluding to at the beginning of the show.
Yep.
This is where Carl Urban and Jeffrey Dean Morgan just really shine.
Yep.
And you get the revelation that we've all had an idea of, but we weren't sure about. Because when it gets brought up to light by Samir, that the virus could kill every Soup on Earth. It's not going to just kill Homelander.
Right.
There is this moment of moral gravity that hits Butcher.
Mm-hmm.
And he does not know how to process it. And this is where Joe comes in and basically says, this is why I took over.
Mm-hmm.
And you do find out that Joe Kessler, his former partner, has been dead for many, many years.
Yep.
And his persona has been lurking in Butcher's mind and is getting more and more unstable because of the tumor that's growing because of the V compound that he took.
Yep.
So Butcher comes to the realization, as does the viewing audience at home,
Yep.
that Joe is not there.
Yep.
Joe is talking to him.
Yep.
And Joe is more or less the evil side of Butcher that is really thinking about killing every Soup, including Annie.
Yep.
On the planet to get his job done before he dies.
Even Ryan. Like I think that's the one that triggers him is, once he realizes, it'll kill Ryan too.
Mm-hmm. Who's getting more swayed by Homelander as the days go.
Yeah.
Which is now going to be an interesting plot point going into season 5.
Yeah.
But for where everything wraps up here, and granted, there was a little moment but where Firecracker proves her loyalty to Homelander.
Yeah.
It's the moment that goes viral. It's the thing about, obviously, Homelander has an asphyxiation for breast milk.
Yep.
And Firecracker decides to take some things so she can lactate.
Yep.
And it's obviously ends on a very unique moment.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Yeah.
So it's now setting up the stage as we're going into the final 2 episodes of the season into a very, very hostile environment.
Well, the other thing, too, we should mention is after Sage gets shot in the head, she leaves the room. There's a moment where Kimiko doesn't see the body. She just sees the blood stain, but nothing ever comes of it. But she does make it out of there. She's had another frontal lobotomy because she got shot in the head. And like, she's coherent and she can speak, but it's not in sentences that make any sense. It's like her talking about like she likes queso.
Yeah.
And just random stuff like that in amongst occasional sentences that make sense given the context. So you've got her in the room along with Newman, along with Homelander, and they're trying to convince all of the senators and all of these rich people like, hey, follow our plan. Let's invoke the 25th Amendment, and really take things over and really set things on the right path. And Homelander tries giving his usual spiel with sizzle words and whatnot. And they're like, listen, cut the bullshit. Just say what you want to do. And he tells them the plan. Like, I want to, we got to invoke the 25th Amendment. We got to take over. We got to do this. We got to do that. And the senators are like, well, what are you going to do about, the Department of Justice? What are you going to do about the civil servant workers, and all this other stuff? And that's when Newman, who up to this point hasn't been fully on board, she's still been skeptical. She's still been apprehensive about everything. Like, is this really the basket I want to put my eggs in? Steps in and sways the senators and the other rich folks that, like, hey, this is what we need to do. And they agree.
Yeah, I forgot about that with everything going on.
Yeah.
But it's true because, Newman steps up and really uses her political prowess to sell this insanity.
Yeah.
So everything is building now towards the political side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then what Butcher is willing to do to cross the line to prevent it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very twisted. It's very dark. It's very disturbing.
Because the way they present it seems like all nice and fluffy and like, oh, this is just a little thing we got to do for the proper good or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But one of the senators calls it what it is. It's a coup.
Yeah. So there's a lot of moving parts with this episode.
Yep.
But it still delivered a lot of strong work. And like I say, I think Carl Urban and Anthony Starr have really made strong cases for an Emmy Award. We have said it very publicly here. If Anthony Starr doesn't win, we riot.
Yeah. Although knowing the Emmy folks, they didn't give anything to Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
Not holding my breath.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one to see if he doesn't win. But like I say, with the performances that we're seeing here, it's really elevating the matters at hand. And there now seem to be kind of phasing out some members of the boys. So this is kind of running a little parallel to how the series ended in the comics form.
Okay.
But in very differing ways.
Right.
So I think maybe when we get to season 5, they might go back to it a little bit. So
Maybe.
We'll have to wait to see how it plays out.
Maybe.
But final thoughts on this episode, Pat?
Great episode in terms of just like all the backroom stuff and the plot development and kind of furthering things along to the inevitable insanity we're going to see with the final episode this season and the final season, season 5. Can't wait to see where it goes because, whoa, boy, it's getting nuts.
Yeah, there's a lot of things happening here, and I really can't read any Batman this week because it's too soon after this episode.
I will say it's been fun to see the Batman community on Reddit's reaction to these 2 episodes.
Yeah,
they have some feelings.
Oh, they do. And we definitely want to hear your feelings, ODPH Society. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPHpod. What is your thoughts about The Boys, Season 4, Episode 6, entitled Dirty Business? Let's have that discussion, shall we? First, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
The content you are listening to is part of the Nerd Initiative Podcast Network. For more info about the home of pop culture positivity, check out nerdinitiative.com.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH Podcast, and we have to recap a wild episode.
That's putting it mildly.
Of the Game of Thrones prequel, currently airing on HBO and HBO Max. The second season of House of the Dragon has wasted no time in giving us some shocks, some frightening deaths, some big moments. But this episode, entitled The Red Dragon and the Gold, really went up a couple notches on the action and really gave us a powerful final act. There's a lot to process with what is going on here, so you know the blueprint by now. Spoiler-free statement, countdown, and then it's full spoiler talk. So, Pad, give me your spoiler-free statement on The Red Dragon and the Gold.
This episode was awesome. Probably the best one they've done this season. Well, no, probably it is the best episode they've done this season. In the conversation for the best episode of the show, and certainly given recent Game of Thrones history, one of the better episodes in the entire franchise they've done in recent history. This start to finish, wow.
This episode delivered on many, many different levels. This episode gave us some great scenes with Matt Smith, who's been the MVP of the show by far. But where it finally dived into is this is the first initial onslaught that we have seen House Hightower and House Targaryen take.
Yep.
And obviously it centers around one person who made his presence known in this episode and was the ultimate wild card in sending both families into a war where nobody may survive. I want to kind of go into more detail, so I'm just going to say if you haven't seen this episode, you really need to go watch it if you're into Game of Thrones. This might be one of the best episodes they've done in this entire franchise. Because, Pad, it's 3, 2, 1. We have to really dive into this.
This episode was nuts from start to finish. The battle that ensued in this episode in the same conversation for me as Battle of the Bastards in terms of just utter insanity. And I got to the end of it going, what the hell did I just see? And there was a couple of times in that battle, I had to rewind my stream to be like, wait, did I just see what I thought I saw?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I needed, Joe Buck to come in with an instant replay. It was insane. It was awesome. You started off a little slowly, but, once that freight train got moving, it was at max speed, but holy hell, this episode was incredible.
Ewan Mitchell, who plays Prince Aemon Targaryen, really has won fans over for being the character they want to hate. This is Joffrey level.
Yeah.
This is...
Yeah.
You think about the great villains that we've seen in Game of Thrones.
He's a slimy SOB, and you don't know what he's going to do.
Aemon is in there, and how he has been manipulating things from a distance. This episode, we finally get to see him right in the limelight.
Didn't we also say last episode with like what had happened with him and Aegon in the brothel that like this is probably going to come back to bite him in the ass?
Mm-hmm. Oh, completely.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, he held
and by him, I mean not Aemon.
No, Aemon has receipts.
Yeah, he
and
does.
He decided to cash one in.
It's like an elephant. He never forgets.
Mm-hmm. So he's just been waiting in the wings. Meanwhile, House Hightower and House Targaryen, you saw what I did there.
Waiting in the wings, literally.
Mm-hmm. Have been waging this
proxy war.
Yeah, you do one thing, I'll do another.
It's almost like up until this episode, it's almost like the Cold War in real life history, where like the U.S. and the Soviet Union never actually fought, head to head. It was all a bunch of like proxy wars.
Yeah.
And now you've got this where it's okay. Yeah, you've got people fighting each other, but it's not exactly the main forces going up against each other until now.
Mm-hmm. But this is where things have just elevated to a point where we're finally getting the road to war. And now an event has happened in the latter half of this episode that really kickstarts that going on. However, though, we do start off with the MVP of the show, Matt Smith, playing Daemon Targaryen. And he is in Harrenhal, and things are not right. He's obviously trying to recruit forces for the upcoming battle. But since he has arrived, things have just been weird.
He's been going through some stuff.
And this episode starts off with a very vivid hallucination.
Yeah.
And he is picturing himself killing a very young Rhaenyra by cutting her head off because she is saying he's treacherous. And it really kind of sets the tone for the episode because there's just this uneasy feeling that takes place throughout the entire run. So you do see that as he's making his way through Harrenhal, he does come across some characters there that are not exactly on his level and just basically are telling him, like, you're in a haunted place. And whatever you do, you're not going to escape this. And even when a potion is given to him to try calming his nerves by Alice Rivers, Pad, it doesn't exactly go well, does it?
No.
Because who does he see in this hallucination? His dead wife.
Yeah.
Lena.
Yeah.
So this goes into just how twisted this whole ordeal is and the power struggle that is going on, that you see Alice, who is played by Gail Rankin, is just almost like using witchcraft on him.
Yeah.
And making him go mad.
Yeah. I really think at this point, because it's already been alluded to, his death is near. This dude is really knocking on heaven's door.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, I think time is ticking away for him.
Yeah.
Because with Harrenhal in sight too, there are some other forces that are looking to head that way as well.
Yep.
One is played by arguably the most polarizing character on the show right now, and that's Sir Christian.
Yeah.
Whose nefarious affair, if I can even use that statement.
It's certainly something, but yes, it is an affair.
With Queen Alicent has definitely drawn some attention on the show, and obviously more people are starting to catch wind. So Fabian Frankel, who plays Sir Christian, has worked his way up to become the new Hand of the King. And how this is playing into his relationship, if you can call it that, with Queen Alicent, played by Olivia Cooke, has now turned into a very, very hot-button subject. Because Alicent cannot be caught with him, yet they're trying to work their way around. And in this whole ordeal, Christian is making moves and not really
Sensible ones.
sensible. He winds up taking out Lord Darkin of Dukinsale because he does not bend the knee.
Yep.
So
Not a good way to really get people to fall in line. It works temporarily, but it just makes people hate you more.
right. So he is now on his way to take out more of the House Targaryen forces. And we do see Rhaenyra does catch wind of this going on. And she returns to Dragonstone and basically calls in an idea that, well, we know when this is declared in the Game of Thrones universe, it's not good. And that is, she is agreeing to go to war with her dragons.
Yeah.
Pat, your reaction to this moment.
Well, fuck, this can't end well for anybody, especially when you bring dragons. And we saw what happened during the Battle of King's Landing in Game of Thrones when Daenerys rolled in there with her dragons. But now we go back in time where there's a lot more dragons and seemingly everyone has one. All that much more firepower does not equal a nice, easy war.
No, it definitely doesn't. So she is making plans to obviously go head out Christian's attempts to grow forces. And she's ready to go to war herself.
Yep.
But Rhaenyra decides to jump in ahead of Rhaenyra.
Yep.
And obviously one of her most trusted allies on this show stepping in because obviously the queen can't risk herself.
Right.
And
kind of integral to the whole thing.
Yeah, which I mean, I fully get, even though Emma Darcy is playing a very strong-willed queen. And with Rhaenyra trying to make her presence felt, the fact that the queen has to sit back and let one of the advisors step in is the smart move.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where Rhaenyra understands, and Eve Best, who plays her, really gets that point.
Yep.
And says, nope, I will be the one to step in. I'm going to be the one to jump and take care of this.
Yeah.
I have experience with dragons. I can do this.
Plus, like we said, if the queen dies, the whole thing falls apart.
Exactly.
Because the people are bending their knee and pledging their loyalty to Rhaenyra. They're not pledging their loyalty to an ideal or to an end goal. It's just, hey, yeah, you know what? We pledged our loyalty to you. We'll stick with you. The instant that figurehead or that person is gone, all bets are off.
So we do see the war is now forming, and it looks like all signs are pointing to Rook's Rest, where the castle in question is going to be one that we want to see all forces, or we are seeing all forces are going towards.
Yep.
So while that is taking place, Alicent decides to have a quote-unquote heart-to-heart with Aegon.
Yeah.
Or Aegon there. And this is a moment that when we know the young king is not exactly, how
sober?
We say, mentally ready for the conversation that takes place.
Also, he's not sober.
Yes, there is that as well, too. But Tom Glencarney, who plays King Aegon, did a great job with the scene, because when the queen is literally saying, you're not ready for this.
No. You're too innocent. You're too young.
Yeah, you are weak, and you should let other people handle the planning of war.
Doesn't exactly go well with a teenager with hormones.
No. So what does he say? Well, screw that.
I'm going to take care of this.
Yeah, he jumps on his own dragon, Sunfire, and takes off to Rook Rest.
Yep.
So now all parties are now getting ready to meet there. And you do see Sir Christian's forces are ready to attack, and then Rhaenyra comes flying in with Meslin. Melees, I'm sorry.
Yep.
And the dragon starts unleashing the first ensemble of dragon warfare. Pat, watching the sequence, how's this playing out for you?
Awesome. Loved everything about it. You know, I understand why we didn't get to see much of it, you know, in the first show, Game of Thrones. This is awesome to see. You know, you always heard about it. We always heard him talk about, like, oh, how crazy it was and how deadly and destructive War with Dragons is. But to actually see it on screen is awesome.
Oh, yeah. So this was a very impactful scene to see play out. And especially to see Sir Christian react to this.
Yeah.
Because he's fumbled his way forward. And to see that now he's up against something he is completely not ready prepared for.
Oh, yeah.
It's very humbling to see that obviously this is not going to be a battle taking place on the ground. It's going to be taking place in the air with dragons. So while this is going on, Aegon and Sunfire do approach.
Yep.
And we do see that there's a little bit of a skirmish going on. But all the while, we see Prince Aemond and Vagar have now entered the fray.
Well, they're there and they're watching, presumably looking to ambush Meleys and Rhaenys. They're like, oh, hey, we're going to catch her off guard. They don't know we're here, blah, blah, blah. He sees Aegon show up, and he goes, and he just kind of sits there and waits. He doesn't say anything, but he just kind of sits there and waits, and why don't we let this play out?
Yeah, so he's watching the fight go on, and Aegon is losing the battle to Rhaenyra.
Youth versus experience.
So you're seeing a lot of great CGI happening here, a lot of great aerial action.
Yep.
And then you do see Aegon start losing, and Aemond decides to step up. Aegon thinks like, oh, I have backup.
Help is here.
Yeah, and then sure enough,
Dracarys.
Yep, Aemond takes both of them out.
Now, of course, it's kind of left up to the viewer at this point. We still have 4 more episodes to go, but at this point, it's kind of left up to the viewer. Was that accidental? Or was that deliberate? Like, oh, hey, there's 2 people that I really don't like right now, conveniently in the line of fire. Let me just take care of this. I'm going with he deliberately did that.
Oh, he absolutely deliberately did that. There's no question about it. Even when they had the little meeting with the quote-unquote war council, and Aegon was getting mad that Aemon wanted to go into business for himself. So that's how he knew about Rook's Rest, and everybody was going there. So when you see this all take place, Aemon is working everybody because he wants to sneak up in command. He's the one that says, okay, well, I'm the one who initiated the war anyway. I can take out Daemon Targaryen. I can take out all of our enemies. We'll be fine.
Yep.
So you do see them get taken out by Aemond. You see Aegon fall to the ground with his dragon. And you see Rhaenyra, who escapes for the moment.
Yeah.
But then decides to go back.
That was a dumb decision.
Yeah, like I say, fortune favors the brave, but in this one, the bank is closed because there's no fortune to be found.
Yep.
Rhaenyra goes back, and Vagar is just absolutely destroying.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
Like I say, Meleys. This isn't even a competition. This is like David versus Goliath, and David doesn't even have a slingshot.
Yeah.
So you see Rhaenyra is killed because Meleys is crashing to the ground.
Yep.
So and like I say, it was a great final moment. She just lets go of the dragon and is like, she knows her fate.
Yep.
There's nothing there.
At that height, there's no Darth Mauling this and surviving. Like, she ain't surviving this.
So you see there's destruction everywhere. There's death everywhere.
Plus, she falls into the castle.
Yeah.
Yikes.
There's no chance she survived. But then when you see Sir Christian, who was knocked down during all the melee going on, wakes up, and he sees Aemond is on the ground with his sword, ready to strike a presumably still alive Aegon, which I have no idea.
We're not 100% sure how that happened.
Yeah.
We did see Aegon crash into the ground, and as he and his dragon were falling, we did see Christian, from his perspective, looking up into the air, seeing them and shouted king or shouted something and saw him crash. I thought he was for sure dead.
I thought he was dead too.
Just because I'm like, all right, the way that thing's going, the kid's going to fall first and the dragon's going to land on top of him.
Yeah, it's Thrones. Like, nobody survives Thrones.
Usually not.
No. And literally that's how things end. So, I mean, a lot to digest here, Pad.
Yeah.
But what stood out to you for this one?
The battle. The battle at the end. The stuff at the beginning was good. I dug all that and all the machinations and kind of, kicking off it was, but this was a powder keg that was fully loaded to the brim, and all it needed was a match, and I'm not even talking a big one, to light this whole thing, and they decided to take a torch and toss the whole torch into the powder keg, because boy, this one exploded. And there's no coming, like I said, there's no coming back from this. This is a line that has been crossed, that despite everything that's happened, there's now prime high-ranking casualties involved with this, and there's going to be retribution had for it.
Absolutely. I thought this episode did what this series really needed, and that was a real shot of adrenaline. I think that we got the big fights that fans have been waiting for, that anybody was kind of questioning about how this was all going to play out, was happily greeted with a fantastic final act. And I think that now, obviously, the line has been crossed. Aemond has now made his presence known. He can't let Aegon live.
Yep.
Because Aegon will go back, and then he's a dead man there. So there's a weird dynamic that's going to be unfolding the next couple episodes. And to see how this all plays out, knowing the war is coming, that obviously they set the bar so high.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to wind up doing for the finale.
It's going to be nuts, and it's a high bar that they're going to have to cross. But I have faith in them at least approaching the bar.
They haven't failed yet, so we'll have to see if they can top it. But in the meantime, we have a lot more to discuss about this episode on social media. So you know the drill by now. Hashtag ODPH Pod. Let's talk House of the Dragon, Episode 4 of Season 2, entitled The Red Dragon and the Gold. There is much to discuss, so let's do it. But first, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Do you like comic books?
What about movies and TV shows?
Well, we may be the show for you.
We're Hops Geek News, a weekly podcast that discusses comics, movies, and TV shows while featuring a beer of the week.
Every week, we chat about what we messed up on the week before, and then we dive into what we're reading and watching, as well as some news.
We then wrap it up with a geek-themed topic of the week.
You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts by searching Hops Geek News.
Cheers.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we have to recap the penultimate episode. Are we here already?
We are, surprisingly.
Holy smokes. You talk about a fast-moving series. That is what we have with the latest Star Wars live-action show on Disney Plus entitled The Acolyte.
Mm-hmm.
The High Republic-themed show has been one of very split reaction on social media, with Amandla Stenberg playing the title characters of Osha and May, and obviously how it involves the Jedi Master Soul, played by Li Jianjie, and the insanity that is unfolding with the twins and their history and why they're so important to both the Jedi and the Sith. There is much going on here, and where we go for Episode 7, entitled Choice, it is one that fans have had quite a reaction to and gave a lot of answers to, so let's get into that spoiler-free statement like we always do. Pat, what is your spoiler-free statement on this episode?
I didn't necessarily like it. You know, it honestly felt like a recap episode if you hadn't seen some of the earlier stuff, you know, or what was it, episode 2? That was the flashback episode.
3, I think.
3, yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, if you missed episode 3, this one caught you up and filled you in on some missing plot points from that episode. You know, so I'm sitting there and I didn't realize this was the penultimate episode until I saw something on social media after I watched the episode. I'm like, oh, wow, you know, can't believe we're already here. And then I watched the episode and I was like, really? That's kind of it? So I wasn't necessarily that big of a fan of this episode.
You know, back in the day,
Yeah.
we'd have, you know, vinyl records that would have an A-side and a B-side.
Yeah.
That's what literally this felt.
Yeah.
This felt like the B-side to episode 3.
Yep.
That's the easiest way to put it. And I love vinyl records too, by the way. But this really felt like I'd seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really get wowed by it.
No.
I mean, it answered maybe a couple things.
Yeah.
But I think
It fleshed out some stuff.
Yeah, but I think overall
for the second to last episode that really should be setting you up for your finale and whatever insanity that's going to happen in the final episode, you know, really was missing the sizzle to that taste.
Yeah, no, fully agree. I think that this was solid for what it needed to be.
Yeah.
But I thought for being penultimate, like this episode technically should have been episode 6.
Yeah.
If you were going to space it out,
Yeah.
you should have done 3 and 6.
Yeah.
But to go back to where everything happened, unless we get some monster payoff
Right.
in the finale, I think this is all. I hate using
filler?
the word. Yeah, it's filler.
It's filler.
I hate using it. I was trying to find something better, but listen, it is what it is,
Yeah.
and it's filler. And we'll just get into some spoiler talk about this because I think this will probably be a very short recap on this.
Probably.
So in 3, 2, 1, let's talk about it.
Like I said, episode was fine. You know, I'm kind of middle of the road on it, but like the thing is, we just watched essentially most of this story, you know, maybe about a month or something. But yeah, about a month ago. Episode 3 was June 11th of 2024. You know, so just under a month later, we're watching the exact same story. Now, admittedly, I did find the aspects of it that were from a different point of view or from a certain point of view, you know, if we're talking Star Wars here. I did find that aspect interesting, you know, and I did dig that. But there was a lot of stretches of this episode where I was like checking social media, answering a text message I might have gotten from a friend or a family member, just because it's a scene or a thing that I had just literally watched and discussed with you a month ago.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't need to keep full attention for this. I've already seen it. This isn't like I'm rewatching the series, 6 months to a year from now as a rewatch if they decide to do season 2, and I need to stay laser focused so I can remember everything for season 2. I literally just saw this a month ago. Like, why?
I'm with you. I mean, to be honest with you, had we not, this would have been perfect if we didn't have this episode 3.
And I realize I'm a giant Star Wars fan, and
we gotta be honest about it.
I'm a little sour on it, but I'm not sitting here saying like, oh, the episode's garbage, the series is trash. Like, it wasn't great. It's easily the weakest episode of the entire series.
Yeah,
easily.
I have to say so because we literally it's just a rehash.
Yeah.
I think maybe my vinyl record assessment was too strong or too off base because it's the same coin. It's the same side.
Right.
But this is like the remix.
I would understand this episode if it was presented from the perspective of it's Sol and the other Jedis. They're on their way back to Coruscant. And Sol's finally like, all right, listen, I'm going to fess up on what happened. And it's him telling the story, going around, people asking questions, what have you, focus in on some other stuff for just, to break up the pace and change things up a little bit during the episode. And then flash back to the scenes that we didn't get to see in the initial telling of the backstory. I'd be fine with that, but to literally rehash, I think the episode was 38 minutes or something like that, but literally 38 minutes, 34 if you take out the 4 minutes for credits, but to just rehash the entire episode a month after we just saw it feel like a little bit of a waste of my time.
It was a B-side. It was a remix. It was a variant cover.
It wasn't even a good remix.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I mean, honestly, if you saw episode 3 or you heard our playback about Destiny, you're really going to hear the same thing.
Yeah.
So I guess let me ask you this, Pat.
Okay.
What differences did you see in this episode that really stood out?
Well, the one that stood out to me was there was the scene at the beginning of episode 3 where it was Osha and May at the tree that clearly had some sort of significance to them because it was a real big kerfuffle that they were there. But it was that whole sequence between them, but Sol was there watching them.
Yeah.
That okay, they weren't as alone as they thought, and the Jedi were at least aware of what was going on with the two kids, that that was going on. And then it was also the whole backstory of what led the Jedi to coming back, because it sure as shit wasn't the fire. The fire didn't alert it to them. And it was the fact that when they tested the girl's blood, which I don't remember happening in the 3rd episode, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't remember that either.
But that, again, made sense because you think back to Phantom Menace and they tested Anakin's blood. Okay, that's their way of testing the M counter, midi-chlorians. Okay, makes sense. And then they revealed how high, well, they didn't give a firm number. They just said it was very high. But then they revealed that the whatever it was about the midi-chlorian counter, something involved with that was the exact same.
Yeah.
That they're oh, well, they're twins. That makes total sense. And they're well, yeah, that does make sense. But even in twins, you see some variations or divergences. They're these are literally identical. And so I thought that was interesting. I'm oh, okay, so that's a little bit of a flip on things.
It was a slight hook to it because obviously the whole thing about the Jedi's going to Brendok is looking for virgins and creation of life. So the fact that they now see something that's an anomaly, they want to take hold of.
Well, they're there for whatever reason. I don't think we fully know why they're there, but they happen to stumble upon this, and once they find the blood samples and they then realize, okay, wait, these two are literally identical beings. And they even bring up the prospect of it's a split personality or split consciousness that's in two separate people. I'm no, you know what? That if you think about just the way they act, that makes a lot of sense because May is clearly the evil side of the consciousness and Osha is the good side. Okay, I can kind of see that, but outside of the revelations we got, I'm sitting there going yep, seen this. Okay, seen this.
Yeah, because it was literally a retelling, and then seeing Sol trying to convince the witches that Osha should come with him.
Right.
And, more of the Jedis trying to enforce their will.
Yep.
And seeing the battle go on between the witches and such, even though it turned out the witches were going to let Osha go.
The mother was going to let him go.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think the whole group was necessarily behind that deal, but the mother of said girls, Osha and May, was going to let them go, but was unfortunately killed.
Yeah, she was killed, and then obviously a fight breaks out between them.
Yeah.
And then you get the scene that we already saw, which was Sol going into the burning building to try saving May and Osha. Can only save Osha.
Yep.
And that's how they wind up leaving. And then the only real result we get here is that the blame for the fire, or the blame for the whole ordeal, is May and the fire.
Well, that's what they're going with. That's what Indara decides to cover up and use, because Sol's breaking some Jedi creeds here.
Yeah.
Because she calls him out about it to his face before things hit the fan and stuff kicks off, that, you know, the only reason he's so involved and wants to save Osha is because in the very short time they've been together or been near each other, he's developed an emotional connection to her.
Yeah.
And as if you've seen the prequels, emotional connections are very much frowned upon by the Jedi.
Yeah.
Just because we're 100+ years before, you know, Phantom Menace, that hasn't changed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so she's like, hey, listen, we got to cut this off. We got to stop this now.
Yeah.
But things develop the way they do, and as they're going back to Coruscant, and Dara decides to cover everything up and go, hey, listen, we're going to blame this whole thing on May. No one's going to say a word, and you're going to be able to do what you want to do. Okay? We're good.
How awful is that, too, by the way?
Oh, for Jedi, listen, it's probably about the second or third most awful thing they've done.
Yeah, seriously. For everybody that says the Jedi are so noble and good, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily start there. I'd say it starts with the Republic, but a little column A, little column B.
Yeah, I'm just saying this shows.
There's Republic laws saying they can go to worlds and planets and take the kids and test them if they deem them worthy enough or powerful enough in the Force. Yeah, it's a little screwed up.
There's a lot of shady politics there. A lot. Mm-hmm. But honestly, I mean, this is a short recap for it, but we've already seen this episode.
Yeah, and that was my biggest grip. Like I said, didn't know this was going to be the penultimate episode, just because life and watching not Umbrella Academy, we'll get to that next segment, but watching Boys and watching House of the Dragon and just other shows I'm watching in my off time and playing games and whatever else, I'd totally forgotten that, you know, we're coming up on the end of the season. So I watched the episode and I was like, okay, that was a little bit of a stinker. And then I saw next week is the season finale, and I'm like, really? That was it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I'm not going to completely bash the series,
right?
Because I don't think
it was a bump in the road.
It was definitely a bump in the road. It was a filler episode. There's no other way to describe it. It was filler. It was a remix. It was a variant cover. Like, however you want to define it, we've seen it before. It just had, you know, a slight thing change.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like the director's cut with 5 extra minutes.
It was almost like you go to a restaurant, you know, fancy restaurant, and you're going through, let's just say, a 5-course meal. You know, you go through the salad and you get the appetizer, and then you might get one main course. You know, let's just say they bring out chicken Alfredo or pick a pasta dish of your own choice, whatever you like. And then for your next main course, they bring out chicken Alfredo. And it's like, but just a little bit of a different garnish on top, or maybe a little different vegetable that went with it, but still the same pasta. Maybe a little different sauce. Maybe they went with something other than like a Bertolli or something like that. You know, and then they went, oh, hey, we're going to go with this other sauce. Still the same dish.
Yeah.
It still tastes almost the same, but just slightly different. That's what it was. That's what it felt like.
I know. Like, I almost think back to the whole Vanilla Ice. The ting, 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 ting. It's not the same.
Yeah.
No, honestly, like I say, just to kind of sum it up, because Pat and I are on the same page about this one. Episode 7, Entitled Choice from the Acolyte Star Wars live action show, really is just a companion piece for Destiny Episode 3.
Yeah.
If you like that episode and want a little more deeper dive, but I don't really think you got bang for your buck with this one, then I'd say you can watch it. But I think other than what we had unfold here, it really didn't move the needle. It was what it was. And to go into the finale like this, they really got to do some redeeming of it. And I think that obviously going into San Diego Comic-Con, I'm expecting them to fully announce that they have a season 2 in the works.
Could be.
Because otherwise they have to really wow the audience to get back on board with this. Because I think this is just a very bad filler episode that has derailed some momentum. And for anybody that's just going out there just to complain about this for, you know, reasons, they shouldn't even be talking about this. This is literally what we saw with Episode 3. And Episode 3 we thought was solid, but like I say, timing-wise, it was off.
Yeah.
If we had bumped up, like take this Episode 3 out of the equation, moved every episode up 1, and had this be Episode 5, it would have been fine.
Yep.
But it's not, unfortunately. So that being said, I mean, Pat, I think we can just sum it up. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod. What did you think about the episode entitled Choice? Episode 7 of Season 1 of Star Wars The Acolyte. Let's have that discussion. If you loved it, tell us why you loved it. Tell us why it was different from Episode 3. If you didn't like it, I think you kind of echo the same statements, but we can have that discussion as long as we keep it positive. So let's do that, shall we? But first, we have one last break to take, so we'll be right back.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder, and you better listen to the ODPH podcast, or I'm coming for you, and Batman is coming for you.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH Podcast Entertainment Edition. Pad, what you got?
Got a couple things to talk about. The first of which is a number of trailers dropped in the last week.
Yeah, it did.
Good grief. First of which is we got a trailer for the final season, Season 4 of The Umbrella Academy, which is dropping on Netflix August 8th. That can't come soon enough.
No, it can't. I mean, obviously, the series, which I think has translated better to TV than it is in comic form, in my opinion. I really am expecting a lot of big things for this. This has been a surprise hit at Netflix, but if you haven't read the comics, I definitely recommend giving them a shot. But like I say, I think this is translated better on TV than I thought it was going to be.
I would say so, yeah. I'm super looking forward to this. Did not expect to like it as much as I have, but bummed to see it go, but hey, it's going out on top.
Yeah, it deserves. Yeah, like I say, there's only so much source material you can do with it. So.
Yep. Then we got a trailer for the movie coming up that, admittedly, when they announced this, I'm like, why? You know, I recently watched the first one, and that ended so perfectly that why do you need to do a second one?
But were you entertained?
I was entertained. And that would be the trailer for Gladiator 2, which is coming to theaters November 22nd. And I was skeptical about this because I'm like, all right, obviously, given the way the first one went down, how are you going to do a sequel? I was, I'm going to withhold judgment until I see a trailer. And I got to say, watching the trailer, I'm a little optimistic. This looks like it could be good. We'll see what happens, whether it actually sticks the landing or not. All the good parts could be in the trailer, as Hollywood likes to do in recent history. But on the surface, it looks pretty good.
It looks good for what it is. I'm still puzzled at why we need a sequel.
Yeah.
But for the cast involved and for what it looks like, it captures that essence of the first one. So, I mean, I'm more open to go see it, but I wasn't like, wow, take my money.
Yeah. I figured I'd see it just because, like I said, I'd watched the first one recently.
Oh, sure.
But I was like, yeah, that looks pretty good. And Denzel Washington is in it. Pedro Pascal is in it, just to name a few. Matt Lucas is in it, well-known actor there. Well, you know the face. You might not know the name. Mm-hmm. But Ridley Scott is back directing this. So we'll see what happens once it comes out later this year. Then we got a trailer for an anime. I am super excited for Season 2 coming. That would be Solo Leveling. Don't know a date. It's just coming soon to Crunchyroll. Went into this when it dropped on the first season, dropped on Crunchyroll with like no expectations. Had never heard of it, didn't know anything about it. I just saw it on the front page and I'm like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. I don't know anything about this. Ended up loving the hell out of it. The first season is out entirely dubbed in God knows how many languages, a bunch of them. But there are 12 episodes, about 20 minutes a piece, so you can get through it relatively quickly. And certainly with the release date being just coming soon, certainly gives you enough time to watch Season 1 because, like I said, one of the better animes I've seen recently. That I wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not. I wasn't sure if I was going to love it or not. I ended up loving the hell out of it and was one of those that okay, when the episode dropped, I had to watch it immediately. Super excited for that to come.
Yeah, no, this looked dope.
Yeah.
This really looked like I have not been following up on my anime lately.
Sure.
I got
life.
I got life. But this one is one I definitely want to dive into before New York.
And then lastly, certainly not leastly, we got a trailer for the long-awaited show that's been announced for, feels like years now. But Marvel Television's Agatha All Along.
Yes.
We're getting a 2-episode premiere September 18th. This looks different, and I don't mean that in a bad way. This looks really friggin' good.
Well, considering Agatha Harkness, who has always been, a supporting character in the comics.
Yeah.
The fact that Catherine Hahn has really developed this character into starring in her own show is truly astonishing.
Well, that song kind of helped.
It does help. No, I will grant you that. But just the fact that Hahn's performance has elevated this character into that realm of conversation.
Yeah.
That goes to show about how well she's doing with this.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that we're going to have the spinoff, the trailer looked good, too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I have no idea what to expect. I mean,
It's going to be spooky.
Yeah, Aubrey Plaza's in there. I don't know who she's playing yet. I'm trying to think of rival witches.
Could be.
And then Joe Locke is in there, too, and I'm not sure who he is playing. My first thought was Wiccan.
Yeah.
One of the Scarlet Witch's sons. So I don't know. I mean, that's the only tie-in that we know as far as the Scarlet Witch is. There's a name on a morgue log that says Wanda Maximoff. But after that, it's kind of wide open. And like I say, there's a lot of very cool things happening. I have high expectations for this.
I do too.
Just because, like I say, the fact that Marvel, with all the shakeups they've been doing over the recent year or so, the fact we're still getting this, I think is something that fans have wanted, and to do something really different, especially perfect timing in the Halloween season. Yeah. You can't go wrong with this.
Not at all.
I'm very excited to see this.
Speaking of things I'm not entirely sold on and really questioning why they're happening, the folks over at DreamWorks Animation announced that Shrek 5 is officially in development.
Why?
Of course, this kind of got let out of the bag about a week or two ago when Eddie Murphy basically leaked out that they were doing this. But reading from an article on Variety.com, it says, quote, "We're going back to the swamp. DreamWorks Animation has announced that Shrek 5 is officially in development with a far, far away release date of July 1st, 2026. Original Shrek stars Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, and Cameron Diaz are all confirmed to return. Antonio Banderas' return as the feisty feline Puss in Boots is not yet confirmed. Shrek 5 will be directed by Walt Dorn, who served as a writer and artist on Shrek 2 and Shrek the Third, and as a head of story on Shrek Forever After, in which he also voiced Rumpelstiltskin. Shrek 5 will be produced by franchise returner Gina Shea, and Illumination founder Chris Melodrani. Brad Abelson serves as co-director. Murphy let it slip in June that he had already begun voice recording for the film and will next do a Donkey spin-off movie. Quote, "We started doing Shrek 5 months ago," Murphy told Collider. "I did this. I recorded the first act, and we'll be doing it this year. We'll finish it up. Shrek is coming out, and Donkey's going to have his own movie. We're going to do Donkey as well, so we're going to do a Shrek, and we're doing a Donkey movie." Close quote. I love the first Shrek movie. First one came out 2001, Shrek 2, 2004. One of those rare instances in animation where the sequel is better than the first. Mm-hmm. First one's classic. Second one is phenomenal. Saw the third one, wasn't really blown away by it. It was kind of a step backwards, in my opinion. Never saw Shrek Forever After, just because by that point I was in college and really it wasn't necessarily my cup of tea. And then I haven't seen the Puss in Boots movie, although from what I know from friends who have kids, the kids love this Puss in Boots movie, which, hey, good for them. But I'm kind of sitting there going, between this and then I know Toy Story 5 also got announced. I'm sitting there going, why? Like, I get the franchise is popular, but why are we doing a fifth one?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I mean, then again, we live in the day and age where there's going to be Fast and Furious
11, 12, 13.
Yeah.
Something.
I don't understand this. I mean, I know that there's a fandom for it, and especially younger demographic,
sure.
And that's fine.
Sure.
And listen, if they're happy and they're going to shell out and show up for it, by all means, get people to the movie theaters.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm right there with you. Why? I think not every story needs a never-ending story.
Yeah. And then speaking of another movie that you got to sit there and wonder why, just why. How are you feeling about Madam Web?
I still haven't seen it, thank God.
Yeah, you and I are in the same boat. One person is speaking up about it and kind of why it might have flopped, and that would be the movie's star, Emma Roberts. Reading from an article on IGN.com, quote, "Emma Roberts has attributed Madam Web's poor box office performance and critical reception to internet culture and, quote, everything being made into a joke," close quote. Speaking to Variety, Roberts, who played Mary Parker in the movie, weighed in on Madam Web flopping, saying that she didn't think the online reaction to it helped matters. Quote, "There is no secret. It's about doing something goodish and it hitting at the right time," Roberts said. "I am not intimidated by failure, and I'm not intimidated by people having negative thoughts about something. I personally really loved Madam Web. I really enjoyed the movie. I thought everyone in it was great. The director, S.J. Clarkson, I think, did an amazing job. She's the reason I wanted to do that movie. If it wasn't for internet culture and everything being made into a joke, I think that the reception would have been different. And that's what bums me out about a lot of stuff. Even stuff that I've done is people just make such a joke out of everything now," close quote. So what are your feelings on that one?
Listen, sometimes it's tough to take an L.
Uh-huh.
And I think for everybody that thought this was going to be the next big movie franchise for everybody involved, listen, not everything is a win.
No.
And this movie was not good.
No. From what I've heard.
I mean, I listened to the trailer.
I've heard it's fine. It's not the greatest thing. I've also heard people say it was awful. I've not heard one person say it was great. It's usually fine or bad.
The problem is almost like the flip of a coin between Agatha Harkness.
Sure.
Madam Web is not a lead character. Has never been a lead character.
No.
And that's how she's always been in the comics. She's always been a clairvoyant to Spider-Man and kind of teetered on that friend and foe level.
Mm-hmm.
I read how this ended. I've seen some internet clips.
I listened to the 3FN review.
Yeah, that's all I need. I just listened to what Rich, Ron, and Diesel had to say about this, and that was good enough for me because I know they cut it right down the middle.
Yep.
This was not good, and I could already tell you after seeing Morbius and knowing that this was like in the same vein.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to be good.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. And it's when it comes to Spider-Man itself, Sony has had mixed results.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to say it simply. You look at the Tobey Maguire franchise. First one, fantastic. Second one, even better. Third one, meh. It was a movie. You look at the Andrew Garfield run. You know, first one, not great, not bad. They took some liberties and they took some risks, and I give them credit for it. But it's not necessarily a movie I've had the urge to watch anytime since I saw it in theaters. You know, I've seen a couple scenes on TV flipping through channels, but have I gone out of my way to go, oh, you know what? I really want to rewatch the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. No. The second one, not good. You know, and then obviously they had the link-ups with Marvel and the Marvel Studios co-produced, co-led, whatever you want to call it, Tom Holland movies have all been great. But then you look at, Venom. Venom movies, for me, I haven't seen them, but, from whatever I've spoken to and people's opinions, it's a little bit of a mixed bag.
Carnage had a love story.
Yeah.
Leave it at that.
Yeah. Venom, mixed bag. Morbius, listen, you cannot convince me that was a good movie. I don't care that it got re-released in theaters because Sony thought people loved it so much. No, they memed it into existence. And the Craven movie, we'll fucking see. But when it comes to movies, by and large, that Sony does on their own without the help of Kevin Feige and Marvel, it's a mixed bag. The bar is very low. And in this instance, they didn't clear it. I think it's as simple as that. And did the internet play a part in it? I think to a certain degree with spreading the word and how bad it was and people not wanting to go see. But also I think a case could be made. It's expensive to go to the movie theaters these days.
It's expensive, but let's face it, you got to get bang for your buck.
Yeah.
And everybody saw the trailer come out. Everybody said that this looked very 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And there was nothing in there that was incentive-based to go see it. Listen, I'm sorry. Not every movie is a hit, folks.
Yeah, this is true.
So just unfortunately, I understand that a lot of people are taking big L's for it.
Yeah.
Listen, just take it and move on to different projects and just let this one just fade into obscurity.
Mm-hmm. Then we got a report out that the Horizon Zero Dawn television series is no longer moving forward at Netflix.
Oh, well.
Yeah. I guess it was revealed back in that there's some behind the scenes issues going on with Steve Blackman, who was obviously did his work on Umbrella Academy, but he's also was doing some work on the Horizon Zero Dawn television series. And, it was reported that Blackman was offered an overall deal worth like $50 million at Netflix in 2020. And that the Horizon Zero Dawn series was a part of that package, and an outer space thriller series, I guess, called Orbital. Now, though, Rolling Stone, quote, has learned that the two projects are no longer moving forward. Per a representative for Blackman, the showrunner, quote, has a long, ongoing, and close working relationship with Netflix and continues to work on new projects. Furthermore, Blackman signed a new multi-year deal earlier this year. Article on IGN goes on to say, quote, Horizon Zero Dawn is an exceptionally well-crafted game with wonderful characters not often seen in the rank and file of the gaming world, Blackman said at the time. Guerrilla Games has created an incredibly lush and vivid world of man and machine who find themselves on a collision course to oblivion. Their salvation comes in the form of a young female warrior named Aloy, who has no idea she's the key to saving the world, added Blackman. Suffice it to say, yes, Aloy will be the main character in our story. My writing partner on this, Michelle Lavretta, and I are thrilled to be able to expand this remarkable IP into a series for all types of viewers, close quote. I mean, I was excited at the time when this came out, but then the more I've seen stuff come out and the more I've kind of thought about it, I wasn't necessarily on board with it as much as I was at the time. just because the adaptations, especially when you do them for television, are very miss these days instead of hit. And it's a franchise that I hold near and dear to my heart. First one is one of, if not the best games I've ever played on any console or any generation. Currently going through the sequel, Horizon Forbidden West, and it's just as good, if not better, than the first one. So I don't think I think it would have worked if maybe you did animated or like a CGI show. I'm not necessarily sure it would have worked as a live action show, just because the amount of CGI you would have had to have used with the live action folks would have been astronomical, and the price tag on the show would have approached Rings of Power level. But is what it is. The games are coming out. The games are good. They got the Lego game coming out soon. Hopefully there's going to be more Horizon games on the road. But as for now, no TV show.
Yeah, fair point.
And then in some good news, it was announced by the folks over at Viz Media that they are going to be the new home for the formerly Rooster Teeth animated show, Ruby. So reading from an article on a blog post from Viz.com, quote, Ruby, Weiss, Blake, and Yang aren't finished just yet. We're excited to announce that Ruby is joining the Viz roster of global anime and manga hits. Watch this special message from Carrie Shawcross, Ruby showrunner and co-creator, and Barbara Dunkelman, voice of Yang Xiaolong. They did include a video, which you can watch on the Viz YouTube page. But the article goes on to say, we are grateful to the Rooster Teeth team for entrusting us with Ruby, and we are excited to carry forward the legacy of the series. The Ruby franchise is not new to Viz. We first partnered with Rooster Teeth in 2016, announcing a publishing partnership to develop a manga series with famed manga Shiro Miwa. From there, Viz deepened its ties to the brands by releasing a series of acclaimed Ruby manga titles, as well as the beloved The World of Ruby compendium book. When it comes to the future of Ruby, even more great stories featuring the characters you know and love are in the works. We invite you to head over to the Ruby page and favorite the series to stay up to date with future Ruby announcements, and to follow the Ruby Twitter account and Facebook page for real-time news, notifications, and more. Now, obviously with this, there came a lot of questions. They did include a frequently asked questions. Basically, if you want to stay up to date on the news, like they said, the Twitter and Facebook page will remain active and are going to be your best sources to follow news. Is there going to be, what do they got planned from Future of Ruby? They're working on it. Our blog post went up. Let me look at the date. 5 days ago. Still early in the process. So they're not going to just acquire it to sit on it. This ain't Microsoft. This ain't Disney. Like, they're going to do something with it. Hey, give them time. Has Ruby Volume 10 officially been confirmed? Quote, there's no news yet on a new season of Ruby. Please follow the official Ruby Twitter and Facebook page for the latest updates. Will they use former production team members? They leave that one up to Carrie Shawcross, who is the series showrunner and co-creator. He'll be involved in the next phase of Ruby, a.k.a. I think they're going to leave that up to him. We'll see. Where will volumes 1 through 9 be available? Quote, stay tuned for updates on where to watch. Viz is exploring wider distribution for the series, including home video releases, additional streaming platform releases, and more. Will Ruby merch continue to be available? Yeah, they're going to have, they got a lot in future for Ruby merch. So, hey, keep an eye on for updates. The soundtracks, they're going to be available. They're working on it. In case you didn't know, there's a lot going on with music rights.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot of I's to dot, T's to cross. So stay tuned. And then when it comes to, they do have a thing about what will happen to my Rooster Teeth subscription. Quote, Rooster Teeth has canceled all subscriptions to their fan service. If you have questions or concerns to your account, there is a link where you can submit your request. But yeah, Rooster Teeth is no longer. So you should be getting a refund if you were billed. Or if you haven't, you can submit a thing to get a refund for a billing you were sent after the company shuttered up last month. But super excited for this. Ruby is one of my favorite series. Once we figure out where it's going to end up, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to highly recommend you go out and watch it, just because it's a great show. It's also very fun to watch, the development process from season 1, where there's background characters, but they're silhouettes. Outside of the main characters and the essential characters, you don't really see the background character. They're just black silhouettes, to where things go in season 9 and just how detailed and how developed it is. It's insane to watch. The story's amazing. So super excited that despite all the craziness going on with Rooster Teeth getting shuttered, that Ruby did end up finding a home.
Yeah. So very quickly, just kind of get the speed version, because news is breaking as we are recording. Boom Studios has been bought.
Yeah.
So, Pat, you got that story up?
I do. Reading from thehollywoodreporter.com, quote, Penguin Random House is set to acquire comic book and graphic novel publisher Boom Studios. The publishing house announced Wednesday that Random House Publishing Group, a division of Penguin Random House, has agreed to the deal for Boom Studios, which was founded in 2005 by Ross Ritchie and Andrew Cosby. The deal is expected to close later this summer, and terms were not disclosed. As part of the transaction, Disney is selling its minority stake in Boom Studios that 20th Century Fox acquired in 2017. Boom Studios will continue its editorial and publishing independence and will report to Random House World's president, Scott Shannon, while Random House World's VP publisher, Keith Clayton, and Random House Publishing Group executive VP of business strategy, Bill Takes, will help manage the new imprint. Also part of Random House World's portfolio of imprints are Del Rey, Inklore, and the RH World's licensing program. Boom Studios made a mark with the original comic titles such as Keanu Reeves' Berserker, Something is Killing the Children, and Lumberjanes, and it also found success at publishing licensed comics such as Power Rangers, Dune, Garfield, and Dark Crystal. Boom Studios will maintain its Los Angeles offices and continue to publish through 4 distinct lines: Boom Studios, Boom Box, Kaboom, and Archaea. Diamond Comic Distributors will continue to distribute Boom Studios titles through to the direct market, with Simon & Schuster handling the bookstore trade. Boom Studios has been involved in the film and television adaptations of its work since the company's inception. The current media division will remain the same under the new deal, with Stephen Christie continuing to lead the production company team. Its previous projects include the action comedy movie Two Guns in 2013, starring Denzel Washington and Mark Wahlberg, horror film The Empty Man in 2020, Disney Plus show Just Beyond, and last year's animated series Mecha Cadets. Currently in production for Boom Studios is Butterfly, a live-action Prime Video spy series starring Daniel Day Kim and Irene Hardesty. Berserker and Something is Killing the Children remain in development at Netflix. Additionally, Ryan Coogler is producing Universal's adaptation of Boom title A Vicious Circle that counts the comics co-creator Matt Tomlin as screenwriter. There is a quote, which is, quote, it's every entrepreneur's dream to launch a company, build it, and sell it to the best, said Ritchie, who dialed back his day-to-day Boom involvement when he was named board chairman in 2021. I'm excited to hand the reins of Boom over to the best and largest publisher in the world. Their focus on readers and retail partnerships will build upon our work and help our creators achieve even more success. Personally, it's time for me to take some much-needed time off with my family and explore what's next. Shannon added, quote, over the past several years, Random House Worlds has partnered with Boom Studios on various projects and had the benefit of seeing firsthand their best-in-class comic publishing. Ross and his teams have built a dynamic, imaginative home for a diverse and talented roster of creators, close quote.
Yeah, big news.
Yeah.
Big news. Ross actually follows the show,
hey,
by the way, so very happy for him. This is surreal, I gotta say. It still hasn't sunk into me yet that Boom is gone. A little peek behind the curtain, I guess. Boom was the second place to ever allow the ODPH to do press.
Yeah.
So we've always had a great relationship with everybody over at Boom. Shout out to Anthony, Ryan, and Amanda, who we deal with on a weekly basis. And this is, I'm excited for it. I'm just hoping nothing changes. I hope this is like an Endeavor deal with WWE. Everybody stays in place, everybody's good, and this just means that more people are going to hear about the great properties over at Boom.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting to see what happens. Timing is really crazy to me because San Diego Comic-Con is 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
And I know Boom has stuff lined up.
Mm-hmm.
So it just got a little more interest in what's going to be happening in there. I mean, I'm not expecting to hear a lot more news about this per se, but congratulations to Ross. And like I say, everything going on there. Boom does fantastic work. Obviously, if you read Parlay Points, Boom is a staple in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously on nerdinitiative.com because it's New Comic Book Day. And obviously, Boom has got some great books out this week.
Yes, they do.
But speaking of great books, Pat, what are you picking up at the shop this week?
A couple things. First of which is from DC. It is Death in the Family. Robin Lives, issue number 1 from J.M. DeMatteis. And this one reads, quote, in 1988, DC fans made a seminal choice in the history of DC publishing, voting to kill off Jason Todd and Todd's Robin in the Death of the Family storyline. Now, for the first time, we want to find out what would have happened if fans had voted to let him live. And it begins with the murder of the Joker.
Yeah.
Looking at the cover, this is certainly a hell of a cover. Give you that much. Whoa.
If you remember that time period, it was a wild one, to say the least.
Yeah.
So we'll just kind of leave it at that. But yeah, that one's definitely got my attention as well.
I love a good what if story, so we're going to give that one a read. From the fine folks over at Marvel, got a couple this week. First of which is Ultimates #2 from Dennis Camp. This one reads, quote, "Shocking secrets of the Ultimate Universe revealed. Captain America reckons with the Maker's dismantling of nations by visiting the White House, leading to a massive brawl between Midas and this young band of freedom fighters. But Midas has been holding a superhuman hostage as a power source, plus the dark history of what used to be the United States on Earth 6160. Super interested to read this.
Yeah, Dennis Camp does really good work.
Cover is nuts.
Yeah, this is wild. But I'm hearing nothing but rave reviews about this from a lot of people online.
Mm-hmm. Then you've got Amazing Spider-Man issue #53 from Zeb Wells. This one reads, "Secrets revealed meet Spider-Goblin. Following the shocking events of issue #50, Peter Parker is a changed man. He's now Spider-Goblin, the most dangerous superhuman in the world, and his chaos is deadly. Meanwhile, who can stop Norman Osborn?" Cover is obviously all sorts of nuts. But we'll see how that one goes. And then the other two you should pick up at the comic shop are the two I reviewed for Nerd Initiative this week. The first of which is Star Wars Ahsoka issue #1 from Rodney Barnes and the fine folks over at Marvel. This one reads, "After the fall of the Empire, Ahsoka Tano stalks the galaxy for Grand Admiral Thrawn. A valuable prisoner escapes New Republic custody. A search for answers reunites two old friends. The villainous Morgan Elsbeth returns along with the two new mysterious Force users, Balin Skull and his apprentice Shin Hati. Will the rebels be able to track down their lost comrade Ezra Bridger?" Well, if you've seen the show, you know the answer.
Yeah, I was going to say.
This is a wonderful adaptation of the television show. Now, admittedly, I haven't seen the first or any of the episodes of Ahsoka since they aired, but I felt like reading this issue. I was like, oh yeah, okay. Like it felt like I was rewatching the episode. It's a wonderful adaptation. It's a fun adaptation. So if you're looking for a new way to experience this wonderful television program, this is a good way to do it. Then from the folks over at Dark Horse Comics, you have Star Wars The High Republic Adventures, issue #7 from Daniel Jose Older. This one reads, quote, "The next thrilling chapter of the High Republic saga starts here. There's no rest for the weary in the High Republic. After their reunion and only a moment's respite, Lula, Zine, and their friends learned that the Nihil Stormwall has encroached further into Republic space. Now the team of young heroes prepared to defend the planet Eridu and the Republic at large from an impending Nihil invasion. Continues the High Republic saga, the perfect accompaniment to Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures and the upcoming Star Wars Acolyte." This one's super fun. It's a good jumping in point if you're looking to get into some High Republic content. You might be a little lost or a little confused with who's who, but it's a good introduction. It's a good jumping on point for this wonderful story that Daniel Jose Older is telling.
Yeah, no, definitely. High Republic stuff is well worth checking out.
Absolutely.
So for me, loaded lineup, but I'll be short and sweet with it. Kicking off my list, X-Men #1, Jed MacKay, Ryan Stegman. So this is the first book to come out post Krakoa, and it definitely hits the cylinders. This is for anybody that, if you're a fan of like X-Men '97 type vibes, this will fit right into your wheelhouse. Great story, interesting ending. Very interested to see where we go from here, but the X-Men are back in a big, big way. DC Comics, Superman Action Comics 1067. Gail Simone is stepping in to write. Eddie Barrows is on the artwork, and this is a throwback to a classic era of Superman. This is vintage Superman 101. So if you love those old style stories from the 60s and 70s, this is that vibe, and I loved it. Gail Simone does not miss either, and I cannot wait to see when she's writing Uncanny X-Men as well. But for right now, Action Comics, that is one to pick up. Does not have anything to do with Absolute Power per se, but except they kind of set up some things happening in the backup story as well. Image Comics, Skybound Entertainment, arguably the best book on the block. Transformers #10, Daniel Warren Johnson, Jorge Corona. Definitely going some places with this one. It's a solo story, so to speak, because a fan favorite Autobot gets a little introduction story into the Energon universe. But big moves are happening, and this book obviously gets all the high praise every single time out because it absolutely deserves it. One book I got into and really had a lot of mixed reactions to it because there's so much going on. All good, though. The second issue came out, and that's called Falling in Love on the Path to Hell. Gary Dugan, who you know from Iron Man fame.
Yeah, great on Iron Man.
Yep, Gary Brown on the artwork, and this is a wild story. I mean, I know I say wild a lot, but this is freaking nuts. You take a female samurai with a grizzled gunslinger from the Old West. They wind up in purgatory, and just shit hits the fan from here.
Sounds like an episode of Samurai Jack, to be honest.
It's wild. Like, it's insane. But it's good, though. Like, it's great. I shouldn't say good. Good's not given a fair due. It's a great story. A lot of things happening here. A lot of moving parts. I was really impressed with it. It's gone back for, I believe, a third printing now already.
Wow.
So it's going some places.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like I say, it's definitely making a lot of noise at the shop. Yeah, it's third printing. I had to go double check that quick. So definitely want to check out. Going back to DC Comics, they had a book come out, Absolute Power Task Force 7. So if you're really liking the event that's going on right now, which we talked about Absolute Power a couple weeks ago, this is like a spin-off story that kind of fills in the gaps in between things. So if you're really looking for a more deeper dive into what's happening, this is a great book for you. This really focuses on Shazam and Miss Marvel. So you'll be able to kind of see what is happening there, and it's kind of setting up some figures down the road to get involved into the Absolute Power storyline. So DC Comics doing a lot of big things. Over from our friends over at Mad Cave Studio, Pad, you know I talked about this a couple weeks ago. Gotchaman is back.
Oh, okay.
And this is Gotchaman Galactor, number 1 of 4. So Steve Orlando, Kath Lobo are on the creative team behind this. Great insight into like a little bit of murder mystery going on, or attempted murder, I should say, of a certain villain in this universe, and what happens after that is anybody's fair game. A lot of cool stuff happening there, and if you're even looking for more comic reviews, nerdinitiative.com, over 30 on the site right now for New Comic Book Day, because nobody does New Comic Book Day like the Nerd Initiative bullpen. That being said, for anything and everything that is the ODPH, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. That's it for entertainment this week. So for the one and only Padawanje,
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast. We'll see you next time.